here to talk to you about my job.
I saw you like sprinting over
It
there.
involves mental health. Yeah, because I was late. So let me just give you today, what has happened today, okay? So I'm a school psychologist, and you think, oh, what does she do all day? I'm gonna tell you. Today alone, what time is it? It's 8:51. I have been in a meeting where we discussed curriculum, like how we are teaching our students. We discussed special education students, how we're reaching those kids. We discussed our goal for the year. We just set a goal, okay? I make mine up. Don't tell anybody I said that. And we discussed vocational rehabilitation. Vocational rehabilitation is a group, a government organization that works with people with disabilities to help them find and keep jobs. So we did all that this morning and worked on, also we talked about a student who, with a behavior disorder that has been doing some nutty business in our school, and we had to try to problem solve for some of the things he's been doing and how can we help him get his needs met but not do these things. Okay? That was that. Then I go, I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna get some tea, which I left in my office. I'm gonna go get some tea right now. And then someone says, oh, Miss Davis, I need you. A student is having a problem in the nurse's office. Okay, that's never good. Okay, in the nurse's office, I don't wanna go in there. It's not my office, I wanna go in the nurse's office. But the student was agitated, very upset about why he had been called into the nurse's office. And so my job was then to go in and talk him off the ledge, right? So I did that. Meantime, I had another student waiting at my office because I also do testing. I do cognitive and academic evaluations. We'll get back to that in a minute. So he was waiting, got sick of waiting for me, went back to his study hall. Study hall teacher is texting me, so-and-so was waiting for you. He is getting upset. Sorry. So I run down, go get him, do his testing. Meantime, I have not printed off the copies that I was supposed to make for this class, which is why you saw me running. So I'm like, I gotta get my copies. And then Mr. Hansen is making like 1,000 copies on the thing. And he's like, 30 seconds in, 15 seconds. So far today, I've done nothing but frustrate myself. It's really weird. So anyway, now you know the typical morning of, no, that's not a typical morning. The good news about this job is tomorrow morning will be all new craziness. It will be a total different bag of crazy tomorrow, which is why I really love my job. I will complain about it all day long, but I love it. Because of that, because I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know what's gonna show. I don't know if some kid is gonna be freaking out over, you know, being called to the nurse's office, or a parent's gonna call me, they can't get their kid out of bed, or a kid is gonna come in because they broke up with their significant other, or what's gonna happen. I never know. And for me, that's a good thing. Otherwise I'd be bored, right? I've complained about it, but otherwise I'd be bored. So how did I get to this place? I will tell you. In order to be a school psychologist, you have to go to college. You have to get several years of schooling. I went to the University of Arizona. Go Wildcats. Anybody? Wildcat fan? No, it's okay. I forgive you. Which is in Tucson, Arizona. And I went there and got a degree in psychology with a minor in special education and emphasis on deaf education. I thought that I wanted to be an interpreter or work with deaf people or something like that. Didn't pan out that way, but it was still good education. So I spent 4 years doing that. And after those 4 years, they were like hard. You know, I worked really hard, and I felt like I needed to take a little bit of time off. And so I took a break from school for 1 year, and I worked at a mental health facility that used to be here in Omaha, called St. Joseph Center for Mental Health. And I worked on the locked adolescent ward. So it was with people your age, but it was the locked unit. So they were all students with significant mental health problems, like schizophrenia. We had a student with multiple personalities, super interesting. We had a couple kids with severe eating disorders where we had to tube feed them. We had to hold her down and tube feed her because she was refusing to eat. We had some very clinically depressed youth who had multiple attempts on their own lives. So all those types of things where their rooms were locked at night. We had to lock up pens and anything sharp that they could hurt themselves with. We had to monitor where they sat when they sat down because we had some sexual predators. All different things. And so my purpose in taking that job was to see, did I really want to, one, work in mental health, and two, work with adolescents, work with youth in general. And what I learned was, yes, I absolutely wanted to work with youth, but two, I did not want to work in a clinical setting. I knew that I did not want to work with in a hospital. I didn't want to be a clinical psychologist where I was sitting in an office taking patients because I don't have patients, and that would be really hard for me. So a clinical psychologist or a therapist has a shingle, right? They have an office in an office building somewhere, sometimes at a hospital, and you go there and you talk to them about your reoccurring issues, right? If you see a therapist or whatever that might be. And the reason I didn't think that would be good for me is because I want things to get done, right? I want people, if they're struggling, I want you to take action right now. And a lot of times the model for that type of mental health is you come in, you sit down, you talk about your business, what's wrong, okay, I'll see you next week. And then the week after you come back and you talk about the same problems, what's wrong, can't. So for me, I want, we're gonna talk about what's happening in your life, what's wrong, but then we're gonna do something about it. I'm a cognitive behavioral psychologist, so I believe that your actions guide your thoughts and your thoughts guide your actions. So if we can change your thinking or we can change your behavior, then we can change whatever it is that's wrong with you, and I wanna start that right now. I don't like what's called admiring the problem, right? Which is just going over it and saying, oh yes, it's so bad for me and my parents, oh, I can't do that. So I knew that that wasn't for me to just have someone come and talk to me every week. While I was in high school, in college, my brother is 4 years younger than me, he was in high school, struggling. At that time, our parents were going through a divorce, not pretty. Though it needed to happen, it wasn't good. And he was struggling with their relationship issues and just being a teenager, going to high school, trying to figure himself out. He was drinking and doing drugs, getting horrible grades, and no one was helping him. And for me, it was like, there's got to be somebody that is recognizing that this kid is not just a jerk, that he is in pain, something's wrong. And he, how many of you have an older sibling that goes to the school? And you get that, oh, you're so-and-so's sister, so-and-so's brother, right? And so he got that a lot. And I was like, awesome in high school, I'm just saying. I loved high school. And so I did all the things, right? I was involved and I loved my classes. And I was like, hey, to my teacher, hey, what's up? And my brother was like, drunk at school. Okay, so totally different people. And he got that all the time. Oh, you're Vern's brother? Oh. And they kind of wrote him off. Like, oh, you're an idiot. And he is not an idiot. Well, he kind of is, but you know what I mean. He did not get the support he needed. And so when I was working in this mental health, facility, and as I was coming through college, I was trying to investigate who helps students like that. Who helps a kid at school who is struggling not only with their home life, but also academically and personally, all this stuff, who helps that person. And so what I found was a school psychologist does that. So that's what I went to graduate school for at the University of Minnesota, Golden Gophers, for Rose Matozoff, because it's so cold there. And I studied educational psychology there. And there, I learned so much about what makes up a person, and that it is so much more than just what you show me sitting here right now. And got the opportunity to work in a lot of different schools and a lot of different settings, and learn my craft. And so school psychologists do a wide variety of jobs. One of my main jobs is to do evaluations for special education, which looks like cognitive testing, so IQ testing. Probably heard of IQ, right? Intelligence quotient. So I do IQ testing, and I do academic testing, which looks at reading, writing, math. I'm missing one. Reading, writing, math. No, those are three. What else do you do? You read, you write, you math. No, that's it. Those three things. And I look at how a student is performing. So the tests are created so that I get to see how you think, how you process information verbally and non-verbally, and how you use your knowledge to do academic skills. And that tells me if a person has a learning disability, if they have a more significant intellectual disability. It talks to me about behavioral stuff. I have all different tests for all different things. And year to year, I'm super interested in different things. Sometimes when I come to this class, I'll bring one of my tests for ADHD. Sometimes I'll bring one of my cognitive tests, and we kind of look at that and kind of go over, what I do cognitively. Right now, one of the big foci for school psychology and schools in general is trauma, where we talk a lot about trauma-informed learning. We talk a lot about ACEs, which I can never remember what ACEs stands for, so I gotta look at my notes. Hi, people that didn't come to class. ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. Thank you. Adverse Childhood Experiences. So right now, the big buzz is trauma, and talking about how trauma affects everybody for life. And so these ACEs studies are being done all over, and so I'm all into this trauma stuff, and what traumatic events have happened in a person's life. And what I'm learning is that trauma doesn't have to be like your house burned down, or your dog got shot in front of you. That is not necessarily right. That maybe happened to somebody, you don't know. They're just adverse. I'm just going to read the little blurb, what it says on my notes here. ACEs are adverse childhood experiences that harm children's developing brains so profoundly that the effects show up decades later. They cause much of chronic disease, most mental illnesses, and are the root of most violence. We also know that they're the root of school concerns. And so there's lots of different ACEs questionnaires out there, but mainly they look at, has a student ever been exposed to physical, sexual, or verbal abuse, physical and emotional neglect, have they been around a family member who's depressed or diagnosed with any other mental illness, addicted to alcohol or another substance, in prison, have they witnessed abuse of, particularly of their mom, have they lost a parent to separation, divorce, or death, and have you witnessed any abuse at all? So they measure those things. What they found is like mind-blowing. There are only 20% of people, so in this room, only 20% of you have one or no ACEs, like 0 to 1, only 20%. So very few of us in this room have not experienced any type of trauma like the ones that I've listed. So myself, for example, my dad was an alcoholic. Both my parents are deceased. They died later in my life, but as a child, my dad is an alcoholic, also has bipolar. My dad was emotionally just a nut job, right? So he was really emotionally abusive to all of us and physically abusive. My parents got divorced. So if we're gonna count up my ACEs, quite a few. I'm gonna count my brothers even more, because then I left, did not look back, see ya. So he had that trauma on top of it. My aunt, who's very close to us, like a second mom to us, also moved away. So his ACEs were really high. And here's what we know about kids who have really high number of ACEs. So it's a cause of chronic adult disease, like heart disease, mental illness. It can lead you to be a violent person or the victim of violence. The more ACEs you have, the greater risk you are for a number of things, like a person with an ACE score of 4 is twice as likely to be a smoker and 7 times more likely to be an alcoholic. A person with an ACE score of 4 has an increased risk of being having emphysema or chronic bronchitis. It increases the risk of suicide by 1,200%. 1,200%. That's a lot of percent. For just 4 ACEs, okay? Let's see, people with an ACE score of 6 or higher are at risk for their lifespan being shortened by 20 years. ACEs are responsible for a big chunk of absenteeism, for costs in healthcare, emergency response, mental health, and criminal justice. So, for me, what this means for me is that we need to be respectful of the fact that when a student walks through the door, we always talk about, you know, we're all carrying our baggage with us, right? Wherever we go, we're carrying our baggage with us. But for kids in school, that means so much more. Now what these ACEs studies is telling me is that not only are you carrying that baggage with you, but it is literally affecting your physical health. Not just your mental health, but your physical well-being, your ability to concentrate in class, your ability to do all the things that we expect you to do as a student. So as a psychologist, I get to read about all this stuff and apply it every day. So when a teacher comes to me and says, you know, Jill is sleeping in my class, she is, you know, being disrespectful, she hasn't turned in her homework for the last month, you know, I'm ready to just kick her out and put her in a study hall. I get to think about it in a way that maybe is different than that teacher, right? I get to think about it in a way that's like, okay, let's think about what other things are happening in Jill's life that may be creating these behavioral and physical concerns in the classroom. And then I get to investigate those things and try to help make them better. So one of the things that has come across my desk recently is this strengths and difficulties questionnaire. And so we work with a group called Project Harmony, and they're really into all this trauma-informed stuff. They're a mental health resource for schools and for the community. And so one of the things that they taught me about at a recent seminar is this strengths and difficulties questionnaire. And so what it does is just asks you, what's your ish, right? And so then we take this back and look at it and try to determine, okay, here's all the things in the win column, here's all the things in the loss column. What can we do now? What actions can we take to help support a student? So I brought some for you you can take it if you want to. You can just look at it if you want to, you don't have to. Take it. But I want to look at it and I want to talk to you about how you think this could help in a school so that we're more interactive and I'm just not babbling at you for the rest of this time. Oh, I'll give you an extra one for the back. Do you have any questions so far? Have questions. You get points. You get points for asking questions. You get points for talking to me. It's easy. No, nothing? Oh, yes.
How long did you say you went to school for?
I went to school for a total of 8 years. 4 years undergrad, 4 years grad. But one of those grad years was an internship year. I did an internship for Omaha Public Schools. It's a paid internship, which is sweet. And I got a job there right after. So I did my internship where basically you're acting as a school psychologist, you have a mentor. And that person signs off on all your reports and all the work that you do. And then I got hired on there and I worked for OPS for 4 years in Benson, in a lot of other schools. I was an autism specialist as well as their deaf, the psychologist that worked with all the deaf students inside Fluent and Sign Language. And then I came here because I could be in one school. I've been here since 1999. Yes. And in OPS, I worked in several schools, right? I was driving all over town every week. And having a job in one school is a school psychologist dream. When I meet people, when I meet school psychologists that don't know me, and we talk about, oh, where do you work? And I'm like, in a high school. And they're like, and? I'm like, nope, that's it. I had an office and everything. I like to call it an office. It's really a closet. Come by and visit me sometime. It's pretty small. But it's whatever, it's home. And I'm very fortunate because most psychologists in the country don't just have one school. I really do have the ideal setup, and it's best practice. All careers, all jobs have what's their optimal practice. So like teachers should have 1 teacher to 20 students. That's the best practice. Psychologists should have 1 psychologist to, I think it's 1,200 students is best practice, and I have 17, so I'm doing good. I'm doing really well. So, this questionnaire, I'd just like you guys to look at it, and maybe, yes, just go ahead and fill it out for yourself. Just do it. Why not? Why not? I brought the self-evaluation one for your age. Just so you can see, these are some of the things we think about when we are working with students with challenges. And then I'd like you to look at these questions and think about why, and then ask me questions about that. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. I talk really fast when I come to these classes. I should have brought ones for boys. Oh yeah. I have. Yeah, you would have left. But it's interesting too to look at it and see, right? Oh, okay. This is how he is. This is how my difference is. It's like, oh, yeah. She does have some issues. It's just being made into this whole thing because not a big deal. So just let me know. So I'll just do it on Friday. Okay. So I'll do first and third on Friday. Or third. What am I doing? Tomorrow? Yeah, tomorrow. I'll do first and third tomorrow. Okay.
And it doesn't, I've got other reasons, but just doing, I have stuff planned for a few days, so.
Okay.
If you can't come, I'll just have something else for you to do, and then.
It should be fun.
Do it somewhere else, it should be fun, no big deal.
Okay, can we talk? So based on what you are seeing on the strengths and difficulties questionnaire, ask me some questions. What do you wonder about?
Is this what you expected to see on something like this, or would you have expected other questions?
Like, when do you normally like use this for? Like, if someone comes in, do you just give this like to them right
No,
away,
good
or-
question. This would be something that if we were working with a challenging student, and we were struggling to come up with ideas to support that person, we might use this Strengths and Difficulties questionnaire. And that would help us to, again, like I said before, it helps us to support a student or a family, yeah.
Why is it sectioned into 3 different, like the black
Well,
lines?
why do you think? What do you
No
think the
idea.
different sections are?
Environment, school, and
Yes, we're looking at different parts of their life. So we're looking at how you treat yourself, how you treat others, and what you're like, right, in different environments, and what you're like to different people in your life. You gotta be smarter than this. Come on now. Is anybody thinking about being a psychologist? Just 2? Only 2 mental health professionals? The rest of you wanna cut people open or what? You know, like surgery. That's what I meant. I didn't mean like criminals. No? Doctors? Physical therapists?
Okay, they're not normally
Yes,
the
yes,
shy.
I got accepted to nursing school, so yes, I'll go to my.
Oh, that's fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So 3 people know what they want. What else?
Come on, guys, you guys aren't normally the shy.
Anesthesiologist.
Are they not?
No.
Oh, a nurse anesthetist or a straight up?
Anesthesiologist.
Whoa, that scares me. Right? That's scary. Like holding someone that's like you got their life in your hands. Ah, scary. So that's a lot of school too. Yes. Yeah. See you when you're like 30.
Yeah.
Right.
Good thing you get paid for some of the
No
residencies
joke.
and stuff.
Right. Well, and then when you're a doctor, when you're a full-fledged doctor, you get paid. So yes,
That's good, yeah,
I will
big
take your
background.
autograph now. Anybody else? What do you want to do? Yeah. A pediatrician. So pediatrician, yeah, this is right up your alley, man. So pediatricians, a lot of times, you have to know on the fly. So someone's coming in, so we have a lot of issues. Okay, I'll tell you a story about, can I tell the story? I can. Yes, I can. So I have I'm just trying to make sure I'm erasing in my mind all identifying, comments. So a person, doesn't wake and sleep when we normally expect, has a sleep disorder. And goes to their doctor and says, I don't know what's wrong with my kid, you know, he doesn't get, you know, he's up in the night and sleeps during the day and I can't fix this, I don't know what's going on, whatever, he's having trouble at school, whatever. So the physician says, oh, sleep disorder. You have a sleep disorder, so you have to try to get the kid back on their rhythm, okay? So kid struggles in school, is a horror at elementary school. Back to the doctor. Now he is tearing up the school and he is refusing to do anything that the school wants. So now in comes school psychologist, right? So school psychologist works with the doctor, works with the family to try to get this, to figure out what is the student's need, okay? Is the academics too hard? Is the environment too stimulating? Are the other students bothering this student? What is it that is causing behavior so bad that this kid is screaming, laying on the floor, kicking, hitting adults, not wanting to come to school? So this team works together really hard, and the parent says, you know what? You guys don't know what you're doing. Homeschool. Cut to, so that's elementary, 9th grade. hi, my child is homeschooled, but we'd like to try getting him back in the building. We want him to go to public school. And everything we suggest, everything we try, just is met with, nope, can't do it. Nope, he's too sick. No, he doesn't like computers. No, he can't write. No, the lighting in the classroom gives him a headache. Do you know what that's called? When everything you do is meet with your distance, and it's the parent saying, my kid is sick, my kid is sick, my kid is sick, my kid is sick. But you really can't find anything wrong. He has a sleep disorder, but plays video games all the time, hangs out with friends outside of school, but can't come to school, lives in the basement at his parents' house for the last 4 years. That's a real story. No, Munchausen. Yeah? Have you ever heard of Munchausen's disease? Where a parent makes their kid sick, makes them sick, and so the parent is getting attention for this kid's sickness. So pediatricians deal with that literally all the time, and would maybe use something like this in conjunction with the school to see, is this real? Is this parent really struggling? What are the strengths and difficulties of this family? So we might not use the self rating, but we would use the family rating, and I would sit down with a pediatrician, probably over the phone, and talk about, okay, do they both have jobs? Yes. Do they, have family in the area? No. Was anybody recently laid off? Yes. So we would look at the different areas for a family to talk about how we could support a kid and help that kid get out of the basement and come to school, when it's really the parents that are making them sick, making them ill so that they can't come. Don't know what's gonna happen to this kid, honestly. What else? What other professions do we have that I might work with? Definitely would not work with an anesthesiologist.
Do you just work with everyone, the special ed and depressed people, or do you only work with one?
Good question. Everybody. Anybody. So my degree covers kind of your typical psychological issues, mental health, so depression, anxiety, social disorders, that kind of thing, all the way through autism, learning disabilities, intellectual disabilities, so low cognitive ability, everything. So like I said before, anything from my boyfriend broke up with me to this kid is not doing any work in class ever.
And sometimes teachers ask her questions too.
Yeah.
Like about our own, if I have a hard time with my kids with something, she'll help me come up with some different strategies to try at home and stuff too.
Yeah, because I've also, so I can work with students birth to 21. So I have knowledge of all types of strategies and interventions for all people in all ways. Now your marriage, don't come talk to me about that again. Again, patience, I don't have it. For certain things, Other questions about the questionnaire? What do you think of it? How do you think it could help me? Hi.
Is Miss Jensen here?
She is not. This is her plan time, so I don't know where she hides during that time. Yes.
Kind of learning personality of the patient. And
Yeah.
See what they're thinking, on a base level thing.
Yes, exactly. It can help with just at the very basic, at the very foundation, where are you at? Do you feel good physically? Do you think good thoughts? Do you, hate people? And then we can go from there. I can say, oh, it looks like you have difficulty with people. Looks like you have difficulty with your physical health. You're sick a lot. It looks like you have a really good relationship with your family. It looks like this, right? It helps me with that basic foundation of who are you? again, and the whole point of it is to look at strengths and difficulties and to help decrease the number of difficulties. So we would give this maybe when you first start talking to me, and then after a month, let's say, and see how things are. See if things are getting better, if your difficulties are decreasing.
So do you feel like students are pretty honest when they take these, or do you give them to like the other teachers or parents to see?
Yeah, we give them to a wide range. I like to do a self-rating because I do think people are pretty honest, especially if they've come to me. If the student has chosen, or even if a parent has chosen to reach out for whatever reason, I do think people are very honest when they're doing self-ratings. But we also ask teachers and parents to do a rating as well. And then we compare. A lot of times what we'll see is one area rates a student as really struggling and another area doesn't. And the student is usually somewhere in the middle. We'll see a lot of times parents will rate their kids as really high in the area of anxiety and conflict, and teachers on the other hand will rate the student really high in the area of lack of focus, inattention, academic problems. Well, a lot of times those adults don't see the student in a setting that would say, oh yeah, my kid has tons of academic problems, or oh yeah, this student is really anxious. They don't view it like that. Well, the academic problems may be coming from the anxiety, right? Or the anxiety may be coming from the academic struggles. So it's good to get an overview of different people. Did you have another question?
Yeah. Was there like ever a time that someone like didn't want to talk to you?
Oh God, yes.
Like, what do you do in that instance? Like,
Usually I don't push. There's a lot of times that people don't think they need me. I hear a lot, I hate therapists, I hate psychologists. I don't like to talk about my problems. I will talk to my friends. You can't help me. I hear those things quite often. And my goal is never to force someone to try to get support. My goal is to, one, let students and people know that support is available. It doesn't have to be me. We have great guidance counselors. We have wonderful teachers and administrators. Somebody is here to talk and to listen. And then to just kind of, a lot of times I'll just put stuff out there. Like, well, this is what I think the issue is. If I'm wrong, please feel free to tell me. And then once I start putting stuff out there, a lot of times the person will come around and say, well, no, that's not it, or you don't understand, or yeah, but whatever, to just try to get a conversation going. What I want people to see is that therapy or going to talk to somebody isn't painful. Like, the goal of it is to come to a resolution for whatever it is that's troubling you. It's not embarrassing, and it's not hard if you're willing to do the work. Well, it's hard because it's work. You know, if there's something going on in your life that's troubling you and you need support with it, sometimes it is hard to move through that. It's not always easy to put a magnifying glass on troubles. Sometimes that is really hard, and I respect that. But a lot of times if we just let those things, like push them down, it just gets worse and builds up inside. It's just not good for you. We know that, right? We know that, like I said, from those ACEs studies, we know that those traumas don't go away. One of the people that I listened to about talking on this topic, he said that kids don't grow out of their challenges, they grow into them. And what he meant by that was, those things don't go away. They become a part of you. And it is up to you and the people that support you to help you integrate those traumas, those challenges in a way that keeps you on a successful path and keeps you away from some of those other things that we know can happen to students that have had lots of trauma in their life. So I just thought that was such a great saying, that people, you don't grow out of your challenges, you grow into them. And that's why you see, like, when you look at my brother and I, we have the same challenges, but we chose to grow into them in very different ways. And, you know, he is who he is now, and I am also, so there's that. There's that. What else can I tell you? I talked so fast. What time is this class over?
5 more minutes.
Oh, only 5 more minutes. Okay, I guess I didn't talk as fast as I thought I did.
I mean, don't you think, somebody asked me the other day what was the difference between like psychologists and then like our guidance counselors?
Oh.
Like, what's the difference?
Well, there's several differences. One, in our building, our guidance counselors have domains, right? So they specialize in certain areas. So Mrs. Herbener is your college counselor. Our new guidance counselor, Ms. Custer, is your career and 2-year college counselor. Mrs. Dunbar works on academics, so if you're struggling in classes, she and I work closely together a lot. Mrs. Van Steenbergen is personal social, so those personal issues, students that are dealing with some mental health issues might talk to her. She and I work closely a lot. But they don't do that in-class, one-on-one working with students like with an academic issue or with behavioral issues. They don't, like, I might go into a class and do an observation on a student that's disrupting class and then work with that teacher to come up with interventions on how to help that student learn better and not disrupt a classroom. Our guidance counselors don't do that. Can a guidance counselor hear about, have a student come in and talk about their personal issues? Yes, any one of them could, just like I can. They don't do the testing, cognitive and academic testing that I do. So helping people find support in that way, they don't do that. So, I mean, there's a lot of similarities between what they do and what I do, but there's quite a few differences as well in our backgrounds, as well as in what we do every day at school. So, it's been good talking to you.
No other questions?
Yes,
After someone fills this out, then like, what do you do?
then I score it. So there is a scoring program that comes along with this, and I'm looking for your strengths and weaknesses score, right? Your strengths and difficulty score. And then that helps to inform me, are you heavier on the strength side, heavier on the weaknesses side, or the difficulty side? And I move on from there with what types of support you'll need. Good question.
So when they take this, you kind of just have to trust them that they're telling the truth?
Yes, and most self-report scales or most survey type scales like this have what's called the F scale or the lie scale built into it. It's mathematical, statistics.